As I mentioned earlier, the most interesting part of Zelda is the battle 100 years ago. So, in the great battle of 100 years ago, first, there was Princess Zelda, and there was Link, who is a super swordsman, and the 4 heroes who controlled the giant robots. They were all fighting together. The whole team was there at that time. The villain's side also had Ganon, who had returned, the giant robots whom the villains took control of, and killing machines like Guardians. Guardians are huge and they shoot beams from their eyes. So they're so strong. So think of them as the giant warriors. Thousands of giant warriors coming out, attack humans, and destroy the civilized world. But all of this only appears in the game as history, although this battle should make the best scenes out of all events. It's like the climax scene in Nausicaa, where a giant warrior comes back to life and fights Om, who charged from far away. It takes your breath away, but in Zelda, that kind of event finished 100 years ago. What's great about Zelda is that it doesn't focus on depicting those scenes. Because if you look around, there have been so many games with outstanding visual images. They all try to show cool images. However, games can't beat movies if they only try to show cool images. And that's because movies can show images along with the progression of stories, which can move the audience more. So, in terms of creating emotions through images, games can't beat movies. So, if games try to impress the players through images, they end up being like an unsuccessful Hollywood movie. So, what Zelda did was that it eliminated all great images. The game sets the best episodes as past events and lets the player start with the main character Link, who doesn't remember anything at all. I think that's the most appropriate approach for a game as a media that provides experience. As I said earlier, games have to extremely narrow down what they show and tell, instead, so they can provide experience. Movies provide images, while games provide experience. Because of this unique nature of games, the players can experience 100 years ago realistically without seeing the images. That's why when you hear Zelda talk to Link at the climax scene, you are completely blown away by what she says. Because at first you think of her just as a character in a game. But as you run, walk, cook, hunt beasts with arrows, eat them, fight the bad guys and so on inside the game, Zelda becomes more than just a game character. When you see her at the climax scene, you think, I meet you at last. That's how this game succeeds in providing experience. And that's why this light conversation with Princess Zelda at the end gets to your heart so heavily. Oh, you'll be moved. Now, let's talk about what I actually experienced while I played the game. So, the story begins 100 years ago. How should I start? Let me stand up. Sorry, let me set this up. So, it's about 100 years ago. Can you see? This is Hyrule Castle. By the way, this is the map of the game. The real map is a lot larger than this. This is only 2/3 of the entire map. So, here's Hyrule Castle. This castle has been ruled by a villain called Ganon for 100 years. 100 years ago, there was a prophecy that Ganon was coming back to life. So, people prepared to fight him, but they lost. So, back then, Hyrule Castle prepared to defend against the foreign enemies. They were in good diplomatic terms with the satellite states, while preparing to fight against overseas enemy states by building a fortress like Akala Citadel as the final defense line. So they built an impenetrable fortress and got ready to protect their kingdom. And Hyrule Castle itself was surrounded by a natural stronghold. These are all mountains. And the castle was located in a valley surrounded by the mountain range, so the castle could create a strong defense line. But they were vulnerable to an attack from the inside, because Ganon attacked from inside the castle after he resurrected. That's why thousands of soldiers had to abandon the castle and escape. Not only the soldiers, but all the citizens of Hyrule who lived in the castle town or the villages around the castle also had to evacuate. Now, thousands of royal family members and the groups of cavalry escaped from Hyrule Castle, and they moved a little south, went this way, cut through Romani Plain, and crossed the bridge. This road is not maintained, but thousands of soldiers ran through this road, took a route like this, and finally, sorry, I'm being clumsy. So, finally, they took this winding path, went up toward this ridge. This is the fortress. It's called Akala Citadel, and this is the escape route. Because they were attacked, they first escaped into the valley, fought their way through this road, and ran into this fortress. Meanwhile, this is the path that Link and Princess Zelda took. I mean, everyone escaped, but the civilians didn't escape from the castle. Everyone moved away from the entire valley. Went through this narrow road. And here, do you see these contour lines crowded together? These two places, these are called the dueling peaks, where you can walk through the crack. They're like a natural fortress, and you see these crowded contour lines. What's amazing about Zelda is that these contour lines all represent the real landscapes in the game. They go through a naturally made road between these steep mountains. Here you go. And move to a place called Blatchery Plain. If you come this far, here you go, you reach Fort Hateno. So they escaped there. Okay, let me go through the whole process again. Ganon returned and occupied Hyrule Castle, and here, tens and hundreds of thousands of killer robots, like the giant warriors from Nausicaa, spread throughout the entire country. The army went through this yellow line and ran into the undefeated Akala Citadel, which was the final defense line. Meanwhile, Princess Zelda and Link went down south with the civilians who were running about, trying to escape between the mountains, across Blatchery Plain, and into Fort Hateno. That's the overview.